Now the team has to galvanize and play like they haven't played this year.
He doesn't really have a weakness when you watch him. He's athletic. He's big in size. He's a really good route runner, really good in space.
There's another opportunity for the Raider Nation. The Black Hole's been great everywhere we've been, home and away. Raider Nation's always loud.
I want people in the locker room who are ready to fight for what it means to be a Raider.
Welcome to Raiders Rundown. JT live from Raiders headquarters. Love being here every Wednesday. We stream live on the Raiders YouTube channel, so jump on in whenever you get this. And everyone at Silver and Black Productions steps up big today. We'll have the head coach, Antonio Pierce, Lincoln Kennedy in a few minutes, and Levi Edwards, our digital insider. So what do we got? We got our only primetime game of the year. Monday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons coming up at Allegiant Stadium. There was another big game at Kansas City on Black Friday, but when the schedule came out, I was pretty upset that there was only one game on the whole schedule that was prime time, Monday Night Football. And the Raiders get it at the end of the year with no playoffs in front of them as the Raiders are riding a 9-game losing streak, and the Falcons have lost 4 in a row. And in those games for the Falcons, their entire season is slipping away. They've now trailed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by 1 game. And coming up, the Falcons got a window to get back into this thing with the Raiders, the Giants, and Carolina. Tampa Bay, they're fighting for the division. Whoever wins the division gets in. There's no wild card. There'll be no wild card in the NFC West. There'll be no wild card in the NFC South. So this is clearly a playoff game for the Atlanta Falcons as they're coming in. It's a rivalry, but not really a deep rivalry in the history of the Silver and Black. But it's an important game because it's a home game, prime time in Las Vegas. And the primetime games have been pretty big around here over the years. They have been. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, the big primetime games, Sunday Night Football, have been pretty epic for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now they're playing with a lot of pride. They're going to try to get going here. And Atlanta comes in. To me, this is an elimination game for the Atlanta Falcons. And in the last 4 games that they lost, Kirk Cousins has 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, which is mind-blowing to me because he's a heck of a player. And this guy's 3rd in the league in yards, okay, and 1st in interceptions. So it's have or have not. But this is a guy who can come in and light it up. He can throw for 350, 400 yards, and have 3 touchdowns. So the Raiders are going to be tested. We continue to tell you everything about the Raiders. Now, they play hard. We know that. You know that. There's no quitting this team. All these games they've been in, even the Tampa game, they were down 14-0 early, and it did not look good. But then it was pretty much a 14-10 game the entire game. Tampa Bay scored in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter. But the problem with the Raiders are once turnovers come, they come in abundance, and the Raiders haven't been able to react. The big storyline in the loss to Tampa Bay was the injury to Aiden O'Connell. It doesn't look to be season-ending, but we don't know the status. The coach will join me here in about 20 minutes, and we'll talk to him about that. But if he can go and he wants to go, it's football. If you get cleared and the trainers and doctors clear you, you play football. If you don't want to jeopardize his future, they might shut him down for Desmond Ridder. Carter Bradley elevated and signed to the roster from the practice squad. Like to see him play maybe down the stretch here to see what the Raiders have with them. And that's where we're at. We're here at a time where a lot of Raider fans are frustrated. I'm frustrated. Players are frustrated. But this is a team based on pride and poise, commitment to excellence. I drove in today. You see the torch, the will to win of Al Davis, and you know that story by now. So that's where we're at on Raiders Rundown. We appreciate you joining us. I will just tell you this. I'm also big on this. All the guests that are coming up, we'll get into Brock Bowers. We have an opportunity here in this building to set an all-time Raiders record. If you see the new logo, 65-year anniversary year, Brock Bowers has an opportunity to lead this team all-time in receptions, passing Tim Brown and Darren Waller, who has the record. That has to happen, okay? That has to happen, period. Not much has happened this year when it comes to wins and losses. We know that. Got an opportunity here for greatness. And eventually, I'm hoping, well over a decade from now, 15 years from now, Brock Bowers' image and likeness will be plastered all over this building with many records, and that's something to take away for this season. So let's bring in Lincoln Kennedy, who's just fantastic, one of the great right tackles in the history of this organization. He'll join us here. And Lincoln, a long travel to Tampa Bay. You're back, and we'll see you on Monday Night Football. Give me a couple of takeaways from the effort you saw in Tampa Bay.
Well, you know what? When you start off 14 and nothing, it's really hard to come back in the National Football League or any league for that matter. But it just also shows you that there's no lead that's safe. I think if we look at football today and look around the league, JT, you see a lot of comebacks and a lot of things that necessarily aren't predicted. It's the great thing about sports. I was happy and pleased with the effort overall that I saw. Look, the turnovers are going to happen, but what I was most impressed about was the fact that being down 14, it just took one spark to sort of wake up the Raiders, which is rewarding. There's still a lot of things that need to be accomplished. There's still a lot of things that need to be ironed out. By no means is this a finished product, obviously, because you're not going to the playoffs. So, as we approach this game against Atlanta, I'm hoping that we get to see another good performance. I will be honest, I'm a little bit on the fence because if we win out, we possibly lose a chance for getting a higher draft choice that we could possibly use on this team. But I do have a lot of pride, and I want to see this organization win. So I'm always torn and conflicted by these sort of statements at the end of the season when the playoffs aren't in the picture.
Yeah, Lincoln, you speak for a lot of fans. That's what I've been dealing with all year is the fans who don't think the wins are important down the stretch because it could be the difference in the first pick, the second, the fourth, having to trade up to get the quarterback. We all believe they're going to get a quarterback. Most people believe, insiders, outside the building, whatever it is. But we got a lot of football left here with these games that remain. A couple of things that we talked about on the pregame show with you is this offensive line, and I want to get your opinion on the 2 tight ends and the 12 personnel. It was a big part of Costa Mesa. Big part of training camp to install the 2, Big Mike and Brock, and see what they would do because that would be the featured group along with the Devontae Adams. Devontae's gone. Mike was gone for most of the year. You saw those 2 together. What'd you see of the 2 big tight ends and how they're able to get open?
I think it's still coming into fruition. I think it's still coming to play, to be honest with you, when you talk about using that type of package. Because here's the thing. You know that it limits you. And if you want to run the ball, you're going to bring, by having 2 tight ends, you're going to bring more people in the box. And that sort of works against you. Now, the Raiders have had more success in the last month since the coaching change with better communication with the offensive line and tight end in the blocking assignments, blocking the box. And Aiden O'Connell and the quarterback said it that have been in pocket have been able to bring in receivers to dig out the deep end of the receivers. Keep in mind, people, you want to block the box. You want to block the line, the linebackers, and the safeties. Those are your best tacklers on defense. You want to leave the corners isolated on the perimeter because a lot of times corners have trouble tackling big players in space. With that being said, with the 12 personnel, you've got to find a way to run the ball effectively between the tackles. You have to make those safeties and those linebackers pay attention to the potential of the quarterback handing off the football rather than just running with the tight ends. Also, the added caveat, what Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer both do well is they know how to get open versus linebackers and safeties, which gives you an advantage. Now, and I knew it was going to happen in the Tampa Bay game. I expected it to happen in the Atlanta game. Tampa wanted to double. They bracketed Brock Bowers, and he still found a way to catch the ball and get the rookie record, which is great. Shows a testament with his ability. But it's going to be tight coverage. And what you cannot afford to do, and I saw it happen in this past game with Aiden O'Connell, you can't force the ball to cover the great player. If he's covered, he's covered. Go somewhere else. Or you have to try to throw him open. The interception that Aiden O'Connell had trying to get to Bowers, he didn't throw him open. He threw it out of duress, and it came up with an interception.
Yeah, that was a costly interception because that was a long drive. That would have given the Raiders the lead. And how many times have you and I talked this year, Link, on and off the record about they're about to take the lead in the second half of the game. They're about to do something that could have flipped the game, and that interception caused what happened. Tampa gets it back, and then Tampa lays it on the Raiders, and then you look at the box score, it's 28-13 instead of saying, wait a second, the Raiders were about to take the lead in that game. They were in the red zone. Let's move on to Atlanta and Kirk Cousins. I am just shocked by these stats. I mean, they're mind-blowing because he's the starter. They owe him a lot of money. They gave him $100 million. He's getting $50 million a year. It could be Russell Wilson next year. Atlanta could say, you're out. We're going to eat most of this contract. And he could end up anywhere from Las Vegas to any market, and the other team wouldn't have to pay much. That's where his season's going. But he wants to save the season. They only trail Tampa by 1 game, and I don't expect him to have 8 interceptions and no touchdowns for another couple of weeks. How aggressive is he? Because he's a veteran, and he's going to come in here in attack mode.
I think he's very aggressive. He's been very aggressive over the last 3 games that I've scouted, trying to get them over the hump. A lot of times when a player of his prestige comes in, and you also know the journeyman, from going from Washington to Minnesota, having success in Minnesota, but then being written off because of an Achilles injury, recovering from that. A lot of times quarterbacks feel pressed to make plays and to make the big play because Atlanta's on the verge of possibly trying to seal up the division. That'll be, as you mentioned, the only way they're going to get in the playoffs. There are times where players, especially quarterbacks, feel pressed and try to force the ball. And that's what I'm referring to. Aiden O'Connell. I've seen it with every quarterback this season. Guys who force the ball. But what I'm most concerned about, JT, and the Falcons, is I don't want to see another geriatric quarterback come into Legion Stadium and have success. We've seen too many of it. It was Ryan last year. We saw the redhead stepchild when Carolina came there, and now Andy Dalton this year. And I just don't want to see another geriatric quarterback come into Legion and have success. Kirk Cousins has all the ability. They have a decent offensive line. They had some injuries. They've got an offense that can score and put some points on. I expect them to pick on the middle of the field as all of our foes have done so far. So it'll be an interesting test for the Raiders.
Look at what Atlanta's done in the last couple of drafts. They take Michael Penix Jr. and they park him. And that was a sharp move because a lot of teams now would like to have Michael Penix Jr., and he's not even playing.
Certainly.
But they went with Bijan Robinson, and this guy's got the third best run grade of 90.9 from PFF. He's got 9 total touchdowns, 8 on the ground. He's got over 50 receptions. They got 5 players with 50-plus receptions, and he's 7th in yards at 977, so he's going to go over 1,000 yards. That's one thing that Atlanta has. They got a rookie-protected contract, a low contract on a running back that people value in this league, and they're going to run him, and he's going to catch the ball. They're working this guy hard, and the Raiders' run-stop defense better be good for this guy.
No doubt about it. And it's gotten better. Look, it was a little bit sort of janky in the first part of the Tampa Bay game, but as the game progressed, they did get better at holding the run. You got to be solid with your run fits. You got to be solid in your gaps. More importantly, you understand the style of defense. Once you get past the line of scrimmage, it's really lean back there. So you've got to make your presence from the defense, from the line of scrimmage in the front 7.
Lincoln, you saw Chason make a big play again. One of the things I like about the league in general, you draft a guy in the first round, he plays for you, he's in your building, you don't like him for whatever reason, he's hurt, he's not healthy, he's in the tub, and then you let him go when he goes to another team. And that player says, well, remember me? I'm walking into the new building as a former first-round pick. I'm young. I'm athletic. You need me. I love this story. I don't know what's going to happen with him next year, but he's one of the guys in the locker room that is clearly putting all of this on tape to either stay with the Raiders or have an opportunity somewhere else. Tell me about his story.
I love it when guys take full advantage of their opportunities. Chason is doing just that. Being a former first-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons and sort of being casted away, I found a second coming in the home with the Raiders and Al Davis in Oakland, and I loved it every minute of it. I gave it my all. But seeing Chason come obviously be available first off, be able to take them and give you another person, opposite Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson who's coming on. We also know what Malcolm Kuntz has been able to do in the past. That gives you a pretty good punch at that in/outside linebacker position. So I'm happy for Chason. I hope he continues to make the best of it.
I want to stay on your backstory because the history of this team, going back to Matt Millen, before that in the 70s, Mike Haynes coming here from the Patriots. I think on the Mount Rushmore of redemption stories, if you're not on it, you're very close. I call Jim Plunkett the leader of that Mount Rushmore. Thrown away, beat up, just his career was pretty much over. And Mr. Davis said, Jim, I need you. I'm just going to park you to rest, but I'm going to need you. And then Jim Plunkett goes on and wins 2 Super Bowls and the Super Bowl MVP. Tell the listeners and our viewers about your backstory coming in as a highly number 1 first-round draft pick, and not working out in Atlanta, and how you got your opportunity in the silver and black.
Well, I'm not making any excuses, but, Atlanta was not a good spot for me. When I was drafted in 93, number 9 overall, I went to a run-and-shoot team that was led by Jerry Glanville and then eventually became June Jones. Run shoot was not necessarily conducive to my strengths and my abilities as an offensive tackle. So June and I kind of clashed. At the end of my 3rd year, I was a restricted free agent. I went and told Ken Herock, who was the president at the time, you either trade me or cut me because I refused to play in a Falcon uniform again. I became a Raider. From that point, I didn't look back because the moment I saw Al Davis and on the practice field in El Segundo, because we had a mini camp once I got traded over in May of '96, Al said, "Welcome to the Raiders. Now you're here, go out and play." And that's exactly what I did. And I think you could say that so many times because Al and the Raiders had given so many other former players from former teams, their other teams, a chance to redeem themselves. I can think of a few like Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know the history as much as I do. Notable names that stood out. Some guys sort of became Raiders. Some guys just were a little bit of a stopover. It is what it is. No judgment, to each his own. But I certainly, like Sincere McCormick or Kason, I certainly appreciate the fact that guys making the best of their second chance, third chance, or their opportunity when they come with the Raiders.
Yeah, I love that story with you because you went on to multiple Pro Bowls. You found a team. You were a leader on the team, and it was just a good fit. And Lincoln, as I walk the hallways here and I bump into some players, I see what this organization has going forward. Just at Allegiant Stadium in this building, if you come here and you see the history, and this is a tough season, and a lot of the players who are going to be back are going to go through one of the toughest seasons of their life. Career from high school all the way to college. But the ones who stick it out and the ones who play at this level in this final 4 games of the season, if they're fortunate to come back, those are the guys that I want to really concentrate on in the offseason because, Tom Telesco and the decisions they're going to make. They're going to want the players who've proven that they can play hard down the stretch. And you've been on some teams that struggled down the stretch. What was your mindset when you looked at the finish line of 4 games to go, but you're on your way to another Pro Bowl on a good team or a team that was maybe a little bit down?
I've had seasons where 3-13, 4-12, nowhere to go, not looking for the playoffs. And I know how hard that is. I've also had success. My thing is this, JT, you and I have worked together for many years. I'm a person that relies on accountability. If I have a job to do, I'm going to do it at my utmost ability, and I'm going to give my best effort forward. And I think you need a locker room full of that. You're not going to always have the best athletes. Remember, those guys on the other side of the ball get paid too. So you keep that in mind. But when you go into a locker room where you have an opportunity, my coach who taught me when I was really young, started playing, he was like, you have to be accountable for your own actions. That's all you can control. I can only control what Lincoln Kennedy can do. I can't control what JT the Brick is going to do or what you can say. But the way we work together is how we harmonize and how we build things. One of the big things to key to our success, I remember back in our day, was the players police themselves. And in talking to Coach Pierce, he has mentioned that the players are standing up and they're policing themselves. That's a good sign. What's the difference between the success that we had at the time and where the Raiders are right now is you don't have a lot of veteran leadership. You have a lot of young guys that are coming into their own, finding their way. Look how many snaps Max Crosby has played this season. Tremendous player, tremendous leader, but you also need somebody else to rise up. That's why it's gratifying to see a Tyree Wilson come along, or or Robert Spillane, somebody else come up and sort of make their way. And as you mentioned, and I've said before, I don't want anybody in the Raiders locker room that doesn't want to be there. We've had players that have quit.
Yeah.
Okay, good riddance. Wish you nothing but the best. There's no harm taken. But I don't want you in the locker room because those types of toxic behaviors can become cancerous and can become detrimental to a locker room.
Lincoln, as we wrap this up, Las Vegas is really struggling here when it comes to seventh worst in points off takeaways. They're just not capitalizing on it enough. And there were 3 turnovers in Tampa, finally a fumble recovery there, interceptions. I get all that. But when they turned the ball over this year, I think a lot of that had to do with Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell being injured. When they do turn it over, they're not scoring, and they're not turning it over enough. That's one thing I'd like to see down the stretch. I don't know if they're going to win another game or if they're going to win them all. But I'd like to see the team, once they turn it over, for the offense to come out aggressive and attack. You got the turnover. You got it. Now the ball might be midfield. You might have it on your 30, the opponent 30. Go attack the end zone. You got the ball back. You make a play. Go with it. Be fast. Have a vision. Attack. Don't just set up the run there and give them a play. What do you see with this team now, the final 4 games? Because it seems like they're getting some adrenaline turning the football over.
Look, this team, I think you'll agree with me. The focus and the strength of this team is the defense, followed by the special teams, followed by the offense. Okay, now the style of defense that you play is not one that creates a lot of turnovers. It can be aggressive at times. There are more times where it's bend but don't break until you force yourself in a sort of condensed situation where you can be a little bit more aggressive. But times when you're talking about being aggressive, and because we've been depleted, especially at the secondary, play a lot of man coverage, when you play in that type man coverage, you can't really gamble. because if you get beat, there's no recourse. There's nothing to do behind you. So you play a lot of man, and then when you're playing a lot of zone, you're playing a lot of zone to be safe, not give up the big play. With that being said, it's hard to generate turnovers. So this team is really not familiar with generating turnovers. That's why you haven't seen it a lot throughout this season. Conversely, offensively, the main things that work against this team, especially when they get in the red zone and the field is condensed, not having a strong run game, not being able to take the ball under center. I like when Aiden O'Connell was taking the ball from under center, especially short yardage or goal line situations, because that allows the tackles and the tight ends to help set the edge for pass rush if you're going to go back for play action. Going from shotgun is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to protect. But not being able to run the ball effectively for 1 or 2 yards. When you get down the goal line, having to go out of a shotgun 3 times and not be able to get in, that's not encouraging. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of progress that needs to be done. I will say this, what I've seen since the coaching change is that the offense is playing with a little bit more continuity. Might be too little too late. I don't believe in, moral victories, but I am seeing a little bit more rhythm, and it is rewarding to see the offense be able to sustain some long drives. Now they just need to capitalize by putting 7s on the board.
Wrapping it up with Lincoln Kennedy. So, Lincoln, finally, I think this is a really big decision. If Aiden O'Connell isn't 100%, why should he play? And I've always said, because you played, and I defer to you and Eric Allen and everybody else, if you get cleared by the trainers and doctors to play, you're a football player, you play. You play at 70%, 80%, maybe 100% early in the season. But we do have Desmond Ridder, who should have a pretty big chip on his shoulder because he played for this organization like you did, and he might want to prove him wrong. I think he's mobile. I think he'd take some shots here. So if it turns out it is Ridder, if Aiden can't go, what can we expect from him?
Well, here's the thing. It's a 2-part question for me. As a player, I had to make the decision am I hurt or am I injured? If I'm injured, I can't go. If I'm hurt, everybody's hurt. It's week 15. Everybody's hurting. Everything hurts. Everything stands up. It hurts. With that being said, when you have the quarterback, because you have to create 2 game plans, you need to know by now whether or not who's going to be your quarterback. I think everybody deserves a chance. I think Aiden O'Connell, to me, has proven that he's probably going to be a solid backup for the rest of his career. I'm not saying he can't start for place, but I think he's capable as a backup. And the jury for me is still out on Ridder. I'm not really sure what to make. I haven't seen enough of a sample size. I do know this, that Scott and Norv Turner, the offensive coordinators, need to work together to create a game plan that harnesses his strengths and find a way to get the ball downfield to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers and the guys that be. But more importantly, you got to protect them. So you got to create a game plan that's more stagnant stay in place for his strength rather than Aiden O'Connell. 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different game plans, in my opinion, JT.
Lincoln, we will see you for Monday Night Football. Safe travels as always. You're the best. Thank you.
I'll see you, brother. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Great Lincoln Kennedy. Always awesome to have him on. Here's our lineup. If you're watching on YouTube, the morning tailgate, Vinny Bonsignore, Clay Baker, Vince Sapienza, The Rich Eisen Show. Rich comes on nationally, 10 a.m. to noon Pacific. I'm on every day, noon to 2, and then Q Myers, Unnecessary Roughness, from 2 to 5 p.m. Well, I want to just say a couple more things on Ridder and Aiden O'Connell. We're at the point in the year where the team only has 2 wins. Whenever quarterback comes in, has an opportunity to pad their stats. That's important. Stats are very important, especially if you're going to stay with the team or leave and go somewhere else. And I think the Raiders now know that they can throw it better than they can run it. But Sincere McCormick has fresh legs, and it's been nice watching him play. We were talking about him early in the year. We love the way he plays now. So there's a couple of good things going into this game, but a desperate Atlanta Falcon team is coming in. When we come back, we'll talk to the head coach. Antonio Pierce will join us about the game in Tampa and what to look forward to for Monday Night Football coming up here. Who's up? Hey, a lot of guys are injured, but everybody coming off the practice squad and the reserves have been playing with a lot of effort. We'll get to the head coach when we come back, and then also we'll dive in with Levi Edwards, who has a lot to talk about also on what's happening with the players. I love their cause for cleats and what they're able to do as they express themselves. And I've been around the league a long time. They didn't let the players express themselves much. Now they're able to do it. My cause with their cleats. That's going to be pretty interesting. He wrote a really good column on that. So that's what we do here every Wednesday on the YouTube channel of the Raiders. And do me a favor, follow my stream at JT the Brick YT. I got people in there now chatting it up, and that's what we do when we come in and out. Great to be here at the Raiders headquarters here, Silver and Black Productions. Raiders Rundown will continue with the head coach, Antonio Pierce, And the only primetime game, Monday Night Football, in the sports and entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. More of Raiders Rundown coming up next.
It's game day. The day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game. It's a passion, a lifestyle. It's time to suit up, Raider Nation. This is Raiders football, where we all bleed silver and black. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Every hat, every piece of gear. Let your loyalty show out. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game.
We
are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear. Exclusively at the Raider Image.
Celebrate 65 seasons of Raiders football. Be a part of our legacy with a special edition brick featuring the exclusive 65th anniversary logo. Get your brick installed at Allegiant Stadium along with a replica for your home or office. Order now and support the Raiders Foundation, benefiting military and veterans, wellness initiatives, and youth development. Secure your place in Raiders history today at RaidersFoundationBricks.com.
Head coach Antonio Pierce joins us. Coach, let's begin with Aiden. How tough of a football player he is, from the thumb to the knee, as we see what happens coming up here in the future.
Yeah, I mean, didn't look good at all. Obviously, whenever you see the cart come out there, you worry. But somehow, some way, he was able to walk in the building, and he's been around, and he's in good spirits, and we'll see how it plays out this week.
Yeah, he's a really tough guy that's been through a lot, but the leadership is what I wanted to ask you about with him. Thumbs up on the card and just with his teammates all the time, upbeat for the future.
Yeah, I think you can just see the concern from our team, our players, everybody. When one of your guys go down, especially your quarterback, Aiden's done a good job of being vocal, going in there, making plays for us. He's through the good, the bad, the uglies, not the starter, being a starter, he's always been the same. He's been consistent, and that's one thing I respect about him.
Big Mike, 7 for 68. Tell me about him and the growth of him as a route runner and what he's doing at the line of scrimmage.
Well, listen, all the attention goes to Brock, right? So now he's getting double-teamed, zones leaning towards him. And we knew it was going to come along, right? Once Mike got him back and got him in shape, got him going, you see the playmaking ability there, right? I thought he did some really good jobs down there in the fringe area, down the red zone on some third downs, blocking in the running game. But we knew we had a special player. That's always been there. I think there's just so much attention to Brock right now. You do kind of forget about Mike, but we have not. And I think that was a great job by our offense and Aiden and Desmond. When they came in, they got the ball to Mike, and he's been making plays. And we just got to keep feeding him to all our playmakers, but especially Big Mike, because he's a big piece of the puzzle.
I want to ask you about your vision of this 12 personnel, 2 tight end set from Costa Mesa preseason until now. Is the light bulb going off for the fans when they see it click, when these 2 guys are humming, and how it could build for the future?
Yeah, and I said it back in training camp to our offensive staff at the time. Like, I thought our best grouping was 12 personnel. It was never 11. 3 wide receivers wasn't kind of in my vision. But I think as we evolved and we got guys healthy, and Scott's come in along with Norv and really implementing that and really finding the matchups, because it's hard. How do teams play us? And every week we're getting a different look. Some teams play us like a base personnel. They bring in big bodies. And other teams bring in their nickel package, to guard these 2 tight ends. So the more and more we can do stuff, and I think even more we evolve in our 12 personnel, where we align these guys, right? How much can we move Brock around? Even Mike, are they in the backfield? Are they at the Z? Are they at the X? Doing things like that, that's going to create problems and headaches for coordinators.
There's a viral video of Jackson Powers Johnson throwing a player around there. I want to ask you about his strength. Yeah. What can you tell us about the weight room, his size? He's a young player who's going to grow into that body and obviously get stronger.
Yeah, we knew we had a junkyard dog.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew we had that kind of player. He loves the physicality of the game. He loves the finish. Got to slow him down at times because he gets a little aggressive, and this cost us a couple times on penalties. But I never want to slow a young guy down. I want him to be smart, but I don't want to slow him down. And that's the kind of mentality we want with our offensive linemen. That finish and, that physicality that when guys are down, we put them through and finish them. Because whenever we get this bad boy rolling, and we're running the ball in that 4-minute period, and we got a chance now to really impose our will, you want your lineman to play like that.
One more player I wanted to spotlight was Trayvon Merrick in that game, especially at the line of scrimmage. I love when guys put their hands up if they can't get home to the quarterback and knock it down. So we've talked in the past in this studio about him in the box, recovery speed. But what does he do at the line of scrimmage to make guys miss so he can get in the backfield?
Well, first of all, a tremendous athlete. We all know that. The physicality with the athleticism, the skill set, I think the game has really slowed down to him now in year 4. Second-round pick, high expectations. And throughout the season, I mean, he's just been showing up each and every week for us, each and every week. And sometimes it's not the most glamorous stats, but it's all the little things he's doing well. But first and foremost, his physicality has really been a really bright spot for our defense. Because when you can put a safety down the box and you can bring him onto the back and you can get the pressure, and just like we did when we got that sack against Baker Mayfield, we get 2-on-1 on the back. We expect that play to happen. Bernie makes a hell of a play, sack fumble, and then here's Trayvon shining on the spot.
Let's get to the Falcons. Interesting run they're on in these last 4 games. You know how good of a team they are. Cousins, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And what I ask you about with him, we know how good he is. If this was a young quarterback, maybe he'd go to the bench or they'd give him easier throws. Do you expect him to come in here and just be a gunslinger? Because the yards, he's 3rd in the league in yards, and he takes a lot of shots.
Yeah, I mean, he's a risk taker. That's why you see it. And they got playmakers all over the field now, tight end, wide receiver, running back. But here's a guy that's played in the league for a long time, right? And he's going through a rough stretch.
Yeah.
We're playing on Monday Night Football, the bright lights and all that stuff. So we're expecting the best of Kirk Cousins. Don't really worry about the pass. Now we got to keep that trend going.
Yeah.
We'll love to see that happen for the Raiders. 0 touchdowns and more interceptions, but we understand we're going to get their best.
Drake London has 116 targets and 6 touchdowns. They have 5 receivers, including their back in there, that have over 50 receptions. So he spreads the ball out well.
Yeah, I mean, like I talked about, between Pitts, London, Robinson, I mean, very dynamic group.
Sure.
I mean, tough matchups. We're sitting down here now just trying to figure out how do we stop them, right? And who do we take away with who? But I think it's always going to have to play into a big part of our entire defense, right? The front 4, the pressure that we bring, mirroring up with the coverage. We got to do a good job of getting them off target, get them back in some 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs, so that way we can bring the house.
Bijan Robinson, 4.5 a carry. That's a pretty impressive number. He's about to get to 1,000 yards. So when you see him, he can catch the ball, over 50 receptions. What does he look like on film when you get the breakdowns of him?
Reminds me of Reggie Bush, guy that I played against.
Yeah.
I mean, very dynamic out the backfield, always making the first guy miss, can cut on a dime, acceleration. I mean, I can go on and on. There's a lot of adjectives about this player, and he's a very good player. And they find different ways. I mean, they'll line him out there at a Z receiver, and he's going against corners or screens or go routes. So we know we have our hands full with this gentleman. The one thing about it, though, we can't get him going. We're going to need 11 hats to the ball because, again, he's going to make the first guy miss several times.
Tell me about Raheem Morris. I always like asking you about coaching trees, where you came from, and you have a big one. He's special. He got 2 Super Bowls as an assistant with the Bucs and the Rams. When you look at him and his type of team, what do they look like?
Man, first of all, they're physical. They're smart. You can tell they love the game. They're passionate. You can tell that his personality is that what you see on the field from the Falcons. And the one thing about Raheem that, you always hear when you talk to him or you're around him, it's just a good person, man, good human being. And the guys love playing for him, regardless of the situation. They're going to go, balls out to the wall. And I think it's one of those things where, he's now, as a head coach, not calling the defense, but you can see his imprint. You can see, his footprint on that defense and their play style.
Last one, Monday Night Football. There's a lot of history in this building with that game. The Raiders dominated it for the first part of the broadcast when it came out. As a player and now as a coach, what does Monday Night Football mean to you?
It's special. Music going into the team meeting today was that theme song of Monday Night Football back in the day in the 80s and 90s. But you only show, on Monday night, and everybody's watching. I think it's special for us. We've done a pretty good job playing well on primetime games. I told our guys this is another opportunity for us to go out there and show up and continue to improve, man, and keep fighting. Keep fighting. This team is playing for a lot of pride. There's a lot left in the tank for this team to keep proving and getting better.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
To be a Raider is to be bold, powerful, and loyal.
What's a Raider? Always a Raider.
Raider Nation family is authentic, with the heart here in Las Vegas. We are often imitated, but can never be duplicated. Why?
The autumn wind is a Raider.
Because there is only one nation.
Let's see him. Oh, wow.
Oh, man. Oh, this is so cool.
I chose to go with the American Cancer Society because my father was diagnosed with cancer back in 2017.
My foundation is the Wounded Warrior Foundation because I've had family and friends that both served.
My cause for my cleats is my I Am Gifted Foundation.
And I chose to partner with Olive Crest. They want to end childhood neglect and abuse in Las Vegas. Let's see him. Oh, wow. This year for my cause, my cleats, means a lot because it's an organization that means so much to me. So I'm so happy and so excited to see what the cleats look like.
These are insane. How they design this is unreal. It's a personal thing because I feel like the backbone of this country is our military. And at the end of the day, I want to give back to them because without them, I wouldn't be able to play this game today.
It was one of the hardest things that me and my family have ever been through.
Wow, these are the best ones yet, I
All the
think.
different types of programs that were supported us at the time. It was easy to select such a great organization and all the benefits that they have.
Dang. Oh, that's beautiful. Spread that love and positivity. There was a time where I almost walked away from the game of football, and I'm glad I didn't because now I'm in a position to use my platform for good.
I'm really excited to wear these and show my pride for Olive Crest. My cause, my cleats is huge in the NFL, and I am just so proud of all my teammates that go out there and support these foundations for such great causes across the NFL. So I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Now the team has to galvanize and play like they haven't played this year.
He doesn't really have a weakness when you watch him. He's athletic. He's big in size. He's a really good route runner, really good in space.
There's another opportunity for the Raider Nation. The Black Hole's been great everywhere we've been, home and away. Raider Nation's always loud.
I want people in the locker room who are ready to fight for what it means to be a Raider.
Welcome back to Raiders Rundown. JT here with you. Raiders.com is your home for all things silver and black. Read Rachel Gosson's My Cause, My Cleats article on the NFL's campaign, which allows players to show off causes important to them. 37 Raiders will take the unique opportunity to wear custom cleats with their chosen causes in Week 15, the matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. To stay up to date on all things Raiders, go to Raiders.com/news. That's how we bring in Levi Edwards, joins us from the digital team. Great to see you. Tell us about this cause for cleats. You wrote about it. It's something where the players really appreciate their emotions and the fact that they can do a little bit more to talk about what they really care about off the field.
For sure, and we had another article that released also today where the headline was more than a cleat, and I feel like that perfectly describes what this is. This is more than a cleat. It's really a great way to bring awareness to a lot of these organizations and a lot of these charitable, places that do a lot of really good work amongst the community, and it really provides players to be able to explain their why. For an example, Alexander Madison with his I Am Gifted Foundation that supports mental health. Mm-hmm. I think that's extremely important, especially in today's time and age where mental health, I believe now, is just as important as physical health for any athlete. And so what he's able to do to bring awareness and really give back to his community, whether it's the community he has back in Boise, Idaho, or in Southern California or here in Las Vegas, he does a lot of great things with that. Andre James, his father, died of cancer. It was a testicular cancer. It was stage 4 back in 2018 as he was a junior at UCLA. And since he's been in the league since 2019, he supported the American Cancer Society because that's something that means something to him. Wow. That's something that he had to suffer through. And even 2 years ago, I wrote a story about how he had to deal with overcoming his father's diagnosis and how much it meant to him for critical catch. So to kind of be able to revisit that and see their process behind why they were able to design these cleats, why they were able to do what they do on the field, because these causes and these organizations are what are providing them fuel to keep going forward. So even though it's cool, you see the cleats and they look sexy and they're vibrant, have all the colors, it means so much more than just guys showing up on Sundays and wearing these really cool cleats. It means a lot.
Yeah, Levi Edwards is our guest, and Bobby Romansky and his team downstairs has to do a lot of work painting these cleats. It's not just – this is professionally done at the highest level, and the players get to pop and do that on Monday Night Football. Let's get to this game, but just before it, I was talking to Coach about it. Michael Mayer and the 12 personnel with Brock. Brock didn't get as many touches as I would like to see, especially as a 2-win team, but I like the fact on that final drive, Michael Mayer really found his rhythm, and what could have been all year, we got him back now. Now I hope they can find both of those tight ends for 10-plus targets a game.
They're going to have to because we see what defenses are now doing with Brock Bowers. This is not some guy that just come out of Georgia and you assume he's going to be good, and you can do what you do with rookie tight ends. You put a linebacker on him in coverage, you put him on the island, you try to take him out of the game. That's not the case anymore. Brock Bowers has had an historic rookie season. You cannot just put a linebacker or just shadow him with one guy because he's too fast, too big, too good yards after catch. You have to do a lot with him. So with that being said, a lot of defenses are putting a lot of attention on Brock Bowers, which means that now you have Michael Mayer who's stepping up, being able to get open, exposing his matchups. And honestly, this is exactly what we would have thought would happen when we drafted Brock Bowers. You wanted this to have this 12 personnel 1-2 punch with these two tight ends who are both really good at blocking, both pass catchers. So with Michael Mayer being able to ramp up his production, it's exactly what you would have assumed would have happened when you brought Brock Bowers in the first place. So it's great to see.
All right, I want to get into with Levi Edwards from our digital team what's going on with Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk Cousins, I truly believe this, that every NFL quarterback should have a statue of Kirk Cousins in their backyard by their pool. And I'm serious. Here's why. He has set the bar for the most guaranteed money ever for a quarterback. And you would think it'd be Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. No. It's Cousins. Because every contract he signed, if it was $86 million, if it's $100 million, it's all guaranteed. And he cashes every check. And then another team waits to give him more guaranteed money. He's got 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in the last 4 games. That's not Kirk Cousins. So if this was a younger player, I think they bring him in here, maybe let him throw a couple screens to find a rhythm. No, Kirk Cousins is a grown adult. He'll figure it out, and I think he wants to save the season for the Falcons, so I expect him to come out firing it all over Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders better be ready.
They definitely better be ready. And what you just said, he's getting paid all that guaranteed money. He's big bag chaser, as the kids say. Big bag chaser, Kirk Cousins. So with all that he's making, you would assume that the Falcons brought him in to save the season, especially with the fact that for them, this is a very meaningful game.
Oh, it's huge. It's the biggest game.
They are one game behind for the NFC South title. And considering the Buccaneers just, unfortunately beat the Raiders to take that one-game lead, the Falcons fell to the Vikings. They're going to have to really step up in a big way if they want to continue on with their season. And when you look at it, Kirk Cousins' first 9 games of the season, Falcons go 6-3. He's 17 for 6 touchdown interception ratio. So he's playing really good ball, some of the best ball you've seen him play in a while. Yeah. And then things are now starting to fall apart in the last 4 games, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. But however, when you look at turnovers, especially with the fact he's thrown 8 interceptions, and he's also fumbled the ball 3 times. So there's a lot of things that you have to account for why things are not falling in line. And so now that you go into this last stretch, a veteran quarterback like him has to show up. But unfortunately for him, the Raiders' defense isn't lying down for anyone at this point.
Not at all.
You literally saw what just happened in Tampa Bay. 3 turnovers in the first half. The Raiders haven't had a multiple turnover game this season. They have not had more than 1 turnover in a game in the entirety of this 2024 season. They had 3 in the first half. They're playing some of their best ball right now, even with what they have. With Chase on, he's really stepping up. Bernie with his first fumble in his career. Trayvon Merrick doing some really good things. They're starting to really click with what they have, even with their depth. So it's going to be a tough task for Kirk Cousins.
Absolutely. Levi Edwards is our guest from the digital team. You broke down this Brock Bowers-Terrell matchup here. So I think everybody who's watching and listening wants to know what's going to happen with Brock, because I'm going to raise my voice here. Okay, it's radio and it's YouTube and it's a live stream. Brock's got to get the ball From here on out, he's the number one story in this organization. Max on defense, Brock on offense, and we're ready to set records with Brock. This can't be, well, he didn't get a target in the first quarter. Hey, the first or second drive, we couldn't find him open. He's got to be open, but Atlanta knows this.
For sure. And even last week against the Buccaneers, Aiden O'Connell was trying to find Brock and force-fed him the ball through interception. Stuff like that, obviously you want to look for your number one target, but you also can't force things as well. You got to make sure things are right. And when you talk about things being right, that comes down to play calling. You have to put Brock Bowers in advantageous situations to be able to do his thing. He's a freak with yards after catch. You got to be able to get him on them screens. You got to be able to get him on those the jet sweeps. You got to be able to do some more with him than just say, hey, go out on this route, get open. You have to use Brock for everything that he is, capable of doing. And so with this matchup, A.J. Terrell, I think, in my opinion, has been one of the more underrated cornerbacks in the league since he came out in 2020 out of Clemson. He does not, I believe, get the credit that he deserves for being somewhat of a lockdown corner in this league. For whatever reason, in Atlanta, I believe he is, over the past 5 years, been a top 5, top 10 corner in the league. And obviously, with what we've seen defenses do with Brock Bowers of putting their number one corner on him, I don't expect anything less out of Atlanta, especially in such a crucial game that they need to win for their chase to the NFC South title. So I believe that this is going to be a premier matchup, something that Brock has to win. But not only he has to win against A.J. Terrell, Scott Turner needs to win his battles with how he chooses to employ Brock Bowers against the Falcons defense.
We're wrapping it up with Levi Edwards. All right, Sincere McCormick, Bijan Robinson. Here's what I like for Sincere. Eric Allen always tells me when he went up against Jerry Rice or he went up against Michael Irv, the big games, he would get up bigger. So for Sincere, Bijan Robinson, I'm looking at his numbers here. He's got 9 total touchdowns, 8 on the ground, 1 in the air. He's got over 50 receptions. So there's a guy who's going to catch a wheel route. He's going to catch a screen and do some things here, especially in the red zone. I think Sincere McCormick's going to look at Robinson on the other sideline saying, I belong. This is my house, Allegiant Stadium. I'm playing. He's the featured back now, it looks like, going forward. What's at stake for Sincere McCormick, as clearly the coaching staff and the players love his positive momentum?
Man, the last 3 games watching Sincere McCormick, he looks like he learned a lot on the practice squad.
Yeah,
he also looks like he's never trying to return to a practice squad ever again in his career, the way he runs. 5.5 yards per carry. He's been absolutely, I don't want to say the word dominant, but he's made the most of his opportunity. And even when talking to me in the locker room, whenever people are interviewing him, he's told me, I was ready for my opportunity. I was ready for this moment. People might have been surprised by my production, but I'm not. I've worked too hard to not be ready when my name is called. And obviously, when you're going against a premier back like Bijan Robinson, all the attention is going to be going towards him. He's very explosive. He can do a lot of things in terms of running the ball, with power, but also has enough speed to, go through a whole route tree. So he's a really tough matchup. But Sincere has a lot to prove, even still throughout his career, especially after the news today of Antonio Pierce really giving him that affirmation and that validation of saying, look, yeah, Madison might be coming back. He's right around the corner. But Sincere, he's been working his tail off. He's been playing well. He's going to remain our starter. So that's huge for him going forward, and he has to maintain that momentum to really do some big things, especially against a tough Falcons defense.
Levi, I love what you said there. I've never heard someone say it that well. He's playing like a guy who doesn't want to go back to the practice squad. I felt that way about DJ Turner when he got his opportunity, unfortunately an injury there. When you take someone off the practice squad, they're a football player. They're an NFL football player, and they want to prove to their family, their agent, their friends that, hey, I'm here now and I'm not going back. And some guys have a career on the practice squad and they're reserves.
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You better believe it. You're a football player in the NFL. But Tom Telesco's got to make a lot of decisions in the offseason. Devontae Adams is gone. There's going to be players gone on offense and defense. There's going to be injured players who have contract years coming up as they're injured. Do you bring them back on a discount? Do you let them go? Do you get someone new? I don't know what's going to happen here. But Sincere McCormick is really important going forward. Just like if Aiden O'Connell ends up being a backup next year for a veteran, or a top draft pick comes in and he's the bridge quarterback and starts, the wheels are in motion now. We know what the team's record is, and the guys who are going to be here, I watched Hard Knocks in the AFC North, and there's the Browns who are out of the playoffs, and the Bengals who are pretty much out. And those players are coming through the camera. Like, no, I'm playing here for my career. It's not a job. It's my career. And I think Sincere McCormick, you just hit me with the lightning bolt. He's a guy who wants to be on this team next year on the 53.
Most definitely. And a quote, you've heard it. I think it's a very cliche quote that I've heard many, many times before. Even my dad said it. But character is what you are when people aren't watching. Mm-hmm. And right now you have a 2-11 Raiders team that, nationally speaking, people are not really focused in on this team. People are just kind of want to skip through these last 4 games and get to the NFL draft and, have a top pick. People are just ready for that. But these last 4 games, while they are still grinding, while they're still progressing, these games are going to show a lot about the character of the Raiders. It's going to show a lot about the character of the locker room and what they believe they can be moving forward.
You're the best. Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it.
There he is, Levi Edwards. Fantastic job. Everything he does here on the digital team. When we come back, I'm going to go into my radio show, but I want to show you this lineup again. The morning tailgate. You can catch us every morning in that Raiders mobile app. See that? If you're watching on YouTube, the Raiders mobile app right there, the opportunity to just click it. You're one button away. We're on 920 in Vegas, and you can just listen to the show in so many different types of platforms, and that's why I love being in here every Wednesday, because this gets turned into Raiders Rundown, the television show, which comes on after college football. Hey, how about the year of college football? We had a big audience this year because coming off some of those big SEC games, this show dropped right in there, and you can find everything we're doing at Silver and Black Productions over at Raiders.com, the YouTube channel. I'm on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. We want to make sure we give you the content that you expect the rest of the year. And Monday Night Football, and living in Vegas as long as I have, with the sports and entertainment capital of the world. There could be a big UFC fight, a heavyweight boxing fight. I just went to F1. I went to the rodeo last night. There's always something big going on in this town, but Monday Night Football is at the top of the list. That show is still massive, and it's a part of American culture. NFL football on Monday night at Allegiant Stadium with the Silver and Black. For everyone at Silver and Black Productions, I'm JT. Thanks for joining us on Raiders Rundown.